Hi there. I'm Ned Jenny. I'm a licensed psychologist and the founder of Edward Jenny and Associates Psychologists. I wanted to talk a little bit today about happiness. Who doesn't want more joy and happiness in their life? A lot of times in psychology, we find ourselves focusing on pathology, things like depression, anxiety, the ways that people don't want to feel. But equally important, and maybe even more important, is the pursuit of happiness. It's even built into our Constitution. So happiness is also referred to in the scientific literature as subjective well-being or life satisfaction. So these are the broad categories, and happiness is a component of that. We know that happiness is related partly to temperament variables, things like genetics. About 30 to 40% of whether we're sort of a gloomy personality or an ebullient personality has to do with genetics. But that means that there's still a 60 to 70% swing of things that we can do to enhance our happiness and feel better. There's always going to be the sort of Eeyores in the world, but we don't have to be that personality all the time. So we also know that being happy is related to a lot of very positive outcomes in terms of our health. So we know that people live longer and they report many fewer health concerns if they're happier. We also know there's one study that came out that said that well-being is as good for us in terms of our health as smoking is bad for us. So think about that for a minute. Being happy translates into all of these very positive outcomes in terms of our health. So we know that there are some things that do contribute to our happiness, and there are some things that we think would, but actually don't. And this is my buddy Cedar. Cedar does contribute to my happiness, and pets are one of the things. But some of the things that we might imagine would contribute to our happiness actually don't. So for instance, money does not particularly correlate with happiness. Certainly, to a certain point, it does. So if we're in poverty, getting ourselves to the point where we can meet our basic needs contributes a huge amount to our overall sense of well-being and happiness. But beyond that, the rewards really are diminishing. In other words, getting that big promotion may make us feel good for a short period of time, but it really doesn't correlate into long-lasting outcomes or long-lasting happiness. So when we talk about correlations, I'll give you a couple of little factoids here. Correlations from 0.1 to 0.3 are very weak. So we don't know that there's much of a relationship there at all. Things change in relationship to each other, but we can't really say why. From 0.4 to 0.6 is a moderate correlation, so there seems to be some kind of relationship there, but we don't know what the cause is or what that relationship is about. And then correlations above about 0.7 are actually pretty strong. The range of correlation goes from -1, meaning that as something goes up, the other thing goes down, to +1, where both things go up and they're perfectly associated with each other. We still don't know why that is, so correlation does not indicate causation, but we know there's a relationship. So we talked about income a minute ago. Income and happiness are only correlated with each other at about 0.13. It's pretty weak. Attractiveness, physical attractiveness, is also a low correlation. Overall health status, we would think that the healthier we are, the happier we would be, but in fact, it's only about 0.8 correlation, 0.08 rather. So pretty bad. The good news is that in worldwide studies of overall well-being, about 80% of us report being mostly happy most of the time. What do we mean by that? When we look at the data, people are reporting above neutral in terms of happiness most of the time. So it doesn't mean we're dancing on air or we're ecstatic, but it means we're happy most of the time. Aren't we, Cedar? Are you happy most of the time? I think he probably is. So worldwide, we are more happy than we give ourselves credit for, and that's an important thing to remind us. So what are some things that we do know contribute to happiness? So having a purpose or having meaning in life, having a sense that your life is actually meaningful, is important. We can achieve this through volunteering. We can have a terrible job, for instance. We can either change that job or we can find ways to enhance the way we feel about the work that we do. Strong social networks are very important to us. So having connections with other people to regulate our emotions and to bounce our feelings off of. Long-term relationships fall into that category. So if you're married or if you're in a long-term partnership, it's really important to nurture those relationships and keep them going. Curiosity or awe is also something that's correlated with happiness. So this sense of wonder in the world, going to an interesting art show, walking in the woods, seeing a new bird species, all of these things can give us a sense of awe and give us a sense of positive feelings. Trying new things, being open to new experiences is important. Tolerating our uncomfortable feelings, and this is where psychotherapy can often be very helpful. If we can learn to tolerate all of our feelings, we can be open to them and we can manage them and regulate them much more effectively. Another area that's kind of interesting that's in the literature is expanding our gender roles. And I don't want to step on anybody's toes here, but gender stereotypes are really limiting in terms of the kinds of experiences we're able to have. So for instance, men are frequently told that they can't be soft, they can't be emotional, they can't be tender because that's weak and feminine. And similarly, women are told that they can't be assertive and strong and dominant. And really, the truth is quite the opposite. There's very old research going all the way back to the 60s that says that people rate the most functional and adaptive people as people who have a mixture of both stereotypically feminine traits and stereotypically masculine traits. And it makes sense. We're more adaptive. We can fit into more different kinds of situations. And we're not closing off parts of our natural way of being. So being comfortable with those gender roles that are traditionally the opposite gender, while not getting rid of the ones that are associated with our gender, is actually a good thing and makes us more flexible. Gratitude is another area that we can really focus on. Gratitude is associated with joy, which makes us more open to experiences like we've been talking about. So how do you get happier? What are some things you can do to enhance your level of well-being? Well, the first thing is to stop chasing it in the first place. Advertising, the commercial culture in which we live, tell us that we need the next best, greatest thing, the newest laptop, the fanciest car, the big promotion. And we know that these things only pay off for a very short period of time. There's a concept in social science called the hedonic treadmill. What this means is if we get that big promotion, we feel great for a short period of time, but that effect wears off pretty quickly. We accommodate to this new level of happiness and we're quickly on to the next thing. We don't sit with it, we don't internalize it. So the first thing is not to fall into that hedonic treadmill and to start recognizing the things that we do have already. So being open to those small moments of joy. I say to patients a lot of times, notice that delicious cup of coffee at the beginning of the morning, or the sunrise, or the weather at a particular moment. Not right now because it's hot and sticky here in Pennsylvania, but you get the point. Notice those small things. They're easy to find once we look for them, but so often we are not looking for them and not recognizing them. So think about ways to give back as a way to increase a sense of meaning and purpose in life. So maybe find a volunteer cause, something through your church, something through your community, a way in which you can give back to others without an expectation of a return on that. That will help you to feel better. Cultivate awe. Get outside, go to an art show, listen to some amazing music, do something new, experience the world in all of its richness and wonderful broadness. And then learn to tolerate your feelings. Learn to identify them, first of all, and then learn to sit with them. Don't avoid them by watching the next TV show or having a cocktail or doing whatever compulsive distraction that you typically fall into. Learn to sit with that feeling, talk it through, process it. And this, again, is what psychotherapy is all about. It's not always easy, but it's a really solid investment. And finally, just learn to be truly present in the moment. Don't miss life as it goes by. Be fully here and fully in that moment, and savor it rather than run off to the next perceived goal or moment that's better than this one. Okay? Finally, reach out to us. We would be happy to talk to you and help you meet your goals and figure out what's keeping you back from being your authentic self and experiencing better well-being. Thank you. Talk to you soon.